So, guys, we get tons of questions, tons of Dynasty trade questions. And the first thing out of our mouths is always, what's the format? Right? Because we're wondering, is it Superflex? Is it 1 QB? Is it PPR, half PPR? How many do you start, not including kickers and defenses, which is most of you? But let's start off. We're going to go through a bunch of formats tonight. We're going to start off with a shallow one, a shallow Superflex, 10 team Superflex, PPR, start nine. Scott, start us off. When you see this format right here, where does your head go in terms of how you would picture your roster and set up your team?
So I have a math brain, right? What's 10 times 9? That's 90. So I'm always looking at what is the equivalent that I would base the format on, right? Like my roster construction series that I did on DD, it's always based on a 12-team start 10 with X amount of roster spots. We've talked before about the ideal number of roster spots versus starters and how you probably want to have it in the 33 to 40% range. So you got to do those calculations right at the beginning to kind of understand how much you really have to know the starting lineup requirements, the teams. But 10 teams start 9, generally you're talking only 90 starters across the league, assuming it isn't just, 1, and a bunch of flexes. You do have to do a little math and think, okay, if everyone has to start 2 running backs, there's only 20 that are starting across the league, but there's only 9 starters. Same with quarterbacks. You almost always want to be starting a quarterback in the Superflex. So you're really just trying to figure out where's the positional advantage going to matter more or less. And obviously in a 10-team start 9, it's going to matter more. So when you hear us answer questions about 10-team start 9, we're probably going to be less likely to say fade running back, trade running back, because you probably do need to have, even if they're quote unquote RB2s, you probably need to have those guys in this type of format just to keep up with the Joneses, where in a 12-team start 12, you can kind of get away with like, all right, I'll just throw these guys in that are back end RB2s and just hope that they can give me, 13, 14 points per game. So I think it's really just understanding how to value the positional advantages, how to value each specific spot, and then also calculating the value of a roster spot. But yeah, in a shallow league like this, I'm going to put even more weight on Mark Andrews in a non-tight end premium, right? An elite running back, or even just a high-end running back. Like I'm going to value that even more, and that's just across the board at the top.
So that's an important, an important thing to frame up too right at the beginning here, because you're going to hear us say start 9, start 10, start 11. So we do not include kickers and defense as part of that number. So on the screen here, it's QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, a flex, and the super flex. That's a start 9. So if you have a kicker and defense in there as well, and you're like, well, actually start 11, we don't consider that a start 11. That's a start 9.
That's talk to your league about changing the settings, because if you're just going to have one defense, don't just do it. If you're going to do defense, do IDP. If you're going to do a kicker, I don't know. You're probably whatever.
So Superflex, Shane, start 9. Where does your head go?
So I mean, any start 9, if it's 10 teams, 12 teams, 14 teams, unless we get to like 16 teams, I think people have heard me use the word hammers a lot. That's kind of where that comes from, right? Because that's where you want nothing but hammers. Like people care about. I'm always like, I don't care about depth. I could not care less about depth in a start 9. I'm also more risk taking because the starting rosters are smaller. So I feel like if I shoot for the upside, that's what I want to do. Like I shoot for a high upside. I don't ever shoot for floor. Like that's never going to be my play. Like Kirk Cousins in a start 9 Superflex is not what I want to do. It's like, oh, that's sexy. I got the QB 12. Like I don't want the QB 12 and the QB 13. I'd rather have the QB 1 and the QB 30, because if I did that, that 30 I took a shot on was, in the hopes that it'd be another QB 1. So I'll play very, very more risk adverse. No, wait, that means you're against it. I embrace the risk.
You'll be more risky.
I'm risky, just like never mind. So I definitely take more risks. Depth, which I usually don't care about. I sincerely, truly don't care about. Running backs are worth more. I'm willing to overpay more because, again, the picks aren't as valuable to me. I stopped caring about picks about 205. And I know the rest of the league still values them. And I'm like, all right, I'm just taking your starters for the 205, and I'm going to use this and pair up. and get better starters.
And lots of the trades we get to, it'll be, multiple pieces on one side where you're giving it's going to be a horrible example, but we're giving the 104, we're getting Jerry Jeudy, like another wide receiver 3 and a late second. So what I'm getting at is what players, like, where do you draw the line in terms of, okay, I want hammers. This is a shallow start 9. What's the line in terms of depth versus like startable? Like I mentioned Jerry Jeudy, for example, he's not a stud locked and loaded starter in a start 9, but he's worthy of a spot on your team, right? You put him in here and there in a flex.
So I'll give this is just really basic. We can probably kind of go back and explore this to be a little more in depth in future shows, just because we're going to do a bunch of different formats, but this will apply pretty much the entire show. For me, if we're just talking PPR, and we're not talking heavy tight end premium, we're not talking point per carry, doesn't even have to be specific quarterback scoring. It's pretty flexible because quarterbacks are kind of like on their own island. I'm looking at, this is what I talked about in the roster construction series. I'm looking at, you have to have a formula to be able to figure out like where is the cutoff point, and it's going to be completely arbitrary. I get so many questions about what's your threshold in my format? How do I calculate it? Does this player count? Does this player not count? And the problem with that is that we're talking about a fluid game of, especially when you're talking like receivers in these ranges.
Right.
There isn't really like an ironclad yes or no. If you ask me, is Kadarius Toney a threshold receiver in a start 9, 12 team or 10 team? Like my answer is probably he could be, but he could not be. So understand that when you're operating kind of in the range where he is, that is the range where you would probably devalue him a little bit because he's in a replaceable flat tier of players where you would never want to pay for a similar player. And just to one of Shane's points, yes, you don't really value second round picks, third round picks. The logic behind that is, though, you're not going to value a third round pick because the odds that they become a player that is in your starting lineup is much lower in a shallower league. But I think where people miss it sometimes is, what do we talk about all offseason? The liquidation, right? Trying to get picks for players at this time of the year. That still matters in these leagues because you have a much better chance of getting to one of those high-end assets better when you have picks versus players. So if you kind of understand that, if someone says, is Kadarius Toney relevant in a 10-team start 10? Most likely the answer is no, probably because there's a better thing you can do with that Kadarius Toney asset than just have him on your bench. Because you look on the bench and you're like, yeah, he's my 7th bench player, my 6th bench player. Okay. But the theory would be, okay, how do I turn him into something where someone may be able to buy a couple seconds for me if I throw those into a deal instead of Kadarius Toney, and it actually gets me to one of these meaningful assets. So I think it's really establishing these thresholds. There's not a perfect way to do it because I can give you numbers. I can go, okay, the threshold is wide receiver 35. And then there's a bunch of questions. Well, this guy could be wide receiver 35. This guy could be wide receiver 60. This guy's not a dynasty wide receiver 35, but he could produce in the top 24 for the season. So there's all these different scenarios, which is why it's important to just know what you want your roster construction to look like. Then try to play the board using all the pieces that you already have. It's not going to be perfect, but on the roster reviews that we do, I'm always going, try to get to your roster construction. Don't even worry about the players. Figure out what you want your team build to look like, then start playing your league and figure out the best way to use your assets.
So I'll say this, maybe not Kadarius Toney, but just the first name that popped in my head for some reason in a shallow league like this, when you said Jerry Jeudy I go, I'd rather have George Pickens. Is Jerry Jufer? Is Jerry Jeudy safer? Yes, he is. But I don't want safe. Like, safe doesn't matter to me. I'd rather go, you know what, Pickens, it's probably going to he's going to need to be an outlier for him to hit his ceiling, but his ceiling compared to what Jerry Jeudy's is I'll take Pickens.
So is there even more value in this kind of format where it's a 10-team Superflex start 9? I know it's a 10-team, but having 2 elite hammer quarterbacks. So you pay up to get Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen on your team. Now that would be more valuable in a 12-team Superflex, right? As opposed to a 10-team. But the advantage is still massive when you're only starting 9 to have 2 monster quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the give and take of it, right? Is that in a 12 team start 10, you're starting more players, right? But so that the rosters are deeper, and start 9, obviously they're smaller. So when you have 2 hammers like that, you're doing more damage with those 2 hammers, sledgehammers, whatever. I'm pretty much, I think we're pretty much on the record as being pro, just fucking pay everything you can for quarterbacks in Superflex leagues. I think that's you get the t-shirts drawn up that say that, whether it's 10 team start 9, whether it's 11 team, that wouldn't be an even number, whether it's a 12 team start 10. I'd get a little scared to pay up too much when we start getting to like 14 and 11. 12 by 13, where I'm going, all right, well, now I need to give up 5 assets for a starting quarterback when I got to start 13 players. I don't know that I can do that. In a start 9, what do you want? You take it. It's all yours.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes. And I think you're always looking at 2 different things. You're looking at, it's like a teeter-totter. There's one side that's always trying to balance the other. There's the scarcity factor, which obviously in a 10-team Superflex, the scarcity is not going to be as high. AKA, the teams in the middle are going to be able to find replacement level quarterbacks easier because there's not as many teams to spread them out around. However, it doesn't nullify the value of the positional advantage. So if you think about it, it's going to sway back towards the scarcity of the quarterbacks, the scarcity of the elite tight ends. It's going to go down because there's only 10 teams. So let's say there's 6 elite tight ends. Well, now it's spread amongst 10 teams instead of 12. So there's 2 less teams that you are having that advantage over if you have one of the 6. Same with quarterbacks. Let's say there's 8 elite quarterbacks. And then there's a drive. Now, this isn't actually how it works. It's how we value them in Dynasty, but it's not how the scoring distribution is. But let's say there's 8 elite quarterbacks. If they're spread amongst only 10 teams, if, let's see, 4 teams have 2 of them each, that's 6 teams that don't have any. In a 12 team, that's 8 teams that don't have any. So if you think about that, the scarcity is going to go down, but the positional advantage is going to be magnified. Mm-hmm. That's what you see. So you do want to sit there and go, okay, well, relative to the rest of the league, and that's kind of where we get into the questions about the tight end premium too, because we get a ton of questions. Would you overpay for Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts in a 10-team start 9 half PPR? And sometimes those are hard to answer because really you're trying to weigh, I don't want to overpay for a format where they don't matter as much relative to the other positions. In a half PPR league, I would much rather have the positional advantage at high-end running back than I would tight end. But that doesn't mean you devalue the fact that you're getting Mark Andrews over the streaming tight end teams at tight end. Yep. So it's always looking at those things and just trying to figure out, what's harder to get, what's my league market look like. But you got to definitely be thinking about both scarcity and positional advantage.
Definitely. Shane, excuse me. I was going to I was trying to take over part of Shane's job here by pulling up some super chats, and there's a 1 of 2. Maybe you could help me out, Shane, by finding the other half of, I believe it was Dustin's super chat. Yes. Oh, you got the other one.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
You took my job and screwed it up, and I had to go back and fix it.
So, because this one kind of fits in, because it's a 10-team super flex. This is a start 10. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Dustin. He's got Russ, the 101, 110. And this is in the inbox for T-Law. So Russell Wilson, 101 and 110 for Trevor Lawrence. Have Lance, Goff, Pickett, Tanny, good receivers, and no running backs. Other picks are 102, 202, and 209.
I mean,
here we go. Sorry. Trying to move Bijan pick for an elite QB, and this is the only offer after going from the Mahomes owner down after a month ago of sending trade offers down over a month.
Well, first things first. I don't believe your rookie draft this month. I don't think it's next month. I'm not being an ass. I'm just saying, you don't have to make this deal right now. And this is I stop myself from doing this all the time. I've got 101s in league, 101s. I can't talk tonight. 101s in leagues, and I start formulating offers that I don't even like that much. But I'm like, this is the best I can do. And then I go, wait a minute. I'm literally bidding against myself. This is the best I can do. Let Bijan ripen. Let this class ripen so that the picks can maximize in value. That said, I mean, I'm fine giving the 101 and 110 for T-Law because I don't particularly care for the 110. But your other quarterbacks aren't particularly good either. I do like Lance, and well, obviously we know Kenny Pickett's going to be a stud. Could be if you had Mac Jones, I'd be really worried. But I'm fine with this because I'd give the 101 for T-Law, and I'd give him the 102 and a 24 first for T-Law. So I would definitely do this.
A couple things to think about here. Now, if this was a 12 team, I think it'd be an interesting question because you do have 5 quarterbacks other than T-Law. So you could justify saying, okay, I'm just going to roll with the 5 quarterbacks and kind of hope that I can get to, I'm not going to catch the elite quarterbacks, right? Like Clay and I, we just did the startup last week, and like, that's not a league where you would ever go, let me try to win with the QB 10 through 20. You know what I mean? You're going to get crushed just because of the scoring. So I think this is where the scoring would come into play. Now, this is a 10 team. So again, you're chasing the positional advantage. So you do have kind of a level of you're hoarding quarterbacks here, and you're getting an elite quarterback. So you're giving yourself like multiple chances to kind of cover the market at quarterback. But I do think having 5 starters makes this a little closer for me. It's just, how do you want to build? It's not going to feel good. You're always going to be going, I hate every one of my quarterbacks, right? Like you're going to hate Jared Goff, Ryan Tannehill, Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson. If Trey Lance is in and out, you're going to hate him. So like, you're going to hate probably all your starters. It's never going to feel as good as having like one of the top 8, top 6 quarterbacks. But you know what? In a 10 team start 10, if you really think Bijan is going to be like an elite difference making running back, you could at least justify saying, you know what? I'm just going to build a different way. I'm going to just build a different way, and I'm not going to take this trade. So I'm okay with it. But if you go, you know what? It just feels like I don't want to do it right now. Wait a couple months, like Shane said, and then reassess it.
Agreed. Okay, thank you for that super chat. Let's move on to this format. We're going to go to a deeper Superflex format, and then we're going to move over to 1 QB.
We getting IDP in tonight?
We are not doing IDP tonight. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, in a few years. Maybe. 12-team Superflex PPR start 11. All right. So I love this. Format. You know, add in a 1.75 tight end premium. Little other bonus action, maybe a little point per carry, what have you. But this is a solid format. It's start 11 is considered fairly deep. It's not deep, but talk to me, Scott. When you see this, where does your head go in terms of roster construction?
Well, everything we already talked about with quarterbacks still applies here. This is why if we use this as just our base format, typically when we talk like without knowing any of the context, we just assume it's 12 teams start 10, 12 teams start 11, right? That's usually what we use. So everything we say about the quarterbacks, like I think it's the most heightened in this format. And here's a couple of reasons why. There's enough starters to where, especially in the flexes, so historically flexes are, if you just took like best ball scoring over, really it's as long as I can remember, but I just have used like the last 10 years. Receivers end up in the flexes more often than any other position. Running backs are close, but if you're just talking PPR, receivers end up in the flex more. But really, because it's start 11 here, and just the way that scoring has been distributed, this is actually the format. Start 12 does it as well. This is actually the format that encompasses like the greatest number of like flat tier skill players. So you're talking wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 4s. Running back 2s, running back 3s. Like really historically, that is a very flat range, but all of the players in that range are still relevant for Dynasty. I give you a name that's in that range. There's 100 names in that range. And you're probably like, yeah, that guy has some value. That guy's worth a second. That guy's worth a third. That guy's worth a late first. That guy's worth an early second. Like all these players have a relative level of value. But they all kind of produce in the same way. And really what's winning or losing for you in a format like this is how good are your quarterbacks? How good are your positional advantages? Where do I have the hammers? You still want the hammers, but you also don't want to give up, like Shane said earlier, 5 assets, 3 firsts and 2 other starters just to get Jamar Chase. 10 teams start 9, you're kind of like, here, you can have him, you can have him, you can have this future first, you can have that future first, because it matters a little bit more. So here, I'm much more apt to just go, okay, if I'm doing a startup draft, and actually I'm going to do the DD show this week on this exact format, 12 team start 11. And I'm going to talk roster construction, how I would do a startup optimally. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to work, but this is what I would try to do. I'm sitting there going like, I really am going to be very, very specific with where I use my picks. And I'm not going to pay up for the Garrett Wilsons. I'm not going to pay up for the Ken Walkers, because I'm kind of betting that they're going to fall a little bit back to the pack where all those players land. I can get those guys much cheaper. I mean, how many times have we gone, yeah, you can get 4 starters in that range for 1 or 2 players. And I'm willing to do, this is the format where you'd start saying, I'm willing to do a 4 for 2. As long as I get 4 strong assets, I'm willing to trade away 2 players for 4. Assuming I have my other roster construction parts, I have an elite tight end, I have a couple elite quarterbacks. So this is where you start getting into like exploit the fact that the flat ranges matter. You might say, I'm trying to think of a name that Shane would say that guy doesn't matter. How about Juju Smith-Schuster? A lot of people are saying he doesn't matter. You know what? In a format like this, at wide receiver 40, he matters. You can start him. Yep. You can start him in your last flex, and you're sure I want to upgrade, but this would not be the format. I go, hey, let me add a first to Juju to go get DJ Moore. I'm not going to do that in this format. In a 10-team start 9, yeah, sure, I would do that type of thing. So that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to say is like Juju Smith-Schuster matters, but his name doesn't matter. There's 40 Juju Smith-Schusters, so if you find the dude in your league or girl in your league, woman in your league that has to have Juju, and they're willing to give you, I don't know, what's his equivalent? Michael Gallup. All right, I might be a little salty.
No, that I was thinking Josh Palmer. But that's a good one. Like you would pivot there if someone was giving you like an extra second. You would
exactly. So if someone had to have Juju, I'd be like, all right, I'll take Josh Palmer in the second. I'll take Michael Gallup in the second, because Michael Gallup and the other guy, Josh Palmer, are going to give me close enough value to Juju, and then the second is going to give me the chance to find another guy that is Juju or better, or obviously use it in another way.
So seconds are more valuable in a start 11. I guess the deeper you go, the more valuable the draft picks are, because they can have a chance of making your roster, right? Let's put this one up here. This is from FF Uncle Piff. He's got a thank for the super chat, man. It's a 12-team start 11 Superflex. It's a 0.75 tight end premium. AJ Brown or the 103. My wide receivers are AJ Brown, T, Ayuk, Godwin, McLaurin, Gabe Davis, Osborne. QBs are Dak, Goff, and Rodgers. AJ Brown or the 103.
The only question I would say is you got to know your league. Does that 103 get you any closer to getting a better quarterback? Is that going to be easier to use? I think most people would say they would be fine taking that 103, removing any risk, and locking in a top 5 dynasty receiver and just taking them, figuring out the rest. I'm just going to roll with Goff, Rodgers, and Dak, and hopefully I have 3 top 20 quarterbacks there that can get me by. But I would say also, if you're saying, okay, the only way I get a quarterback in this league is to either draft them or I got to come with draft picks, not just, no one's giving me a top 9 quarterback for AJ Brown. I'd have to add, AJ Brown plus. Maybe the pick helps you get closer, but I'm fine with it. I think we've done this type of trade and just been fine with alleviating the risk of even drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't one that I'm going to have a strong conviction on either way, because I like both assets. Obviously, I love AJ Brown, and I hope he beats Juju Smith-Schuster's face in the next time he sees him. It's neither near here nor there. But yeah, if I want an elite quarterback at 103, this is going to be my shot to get one without having to pay 4 firsts for Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? Things like that. So I'm literally fine with whichever side. I'd probably lean, because I'm a super flex whore, I'd probably lean the 103 is what I'd say. Now, you send me that in my inbox, and my green eyes are going to light up, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, 10 minutes later, you'll have a different take on it. Yeah. No, that's good stuff there. Thank you for the super chat, Uncle Piff. All right, let's I guess, do we need to talk more about the okay, so Superflex start 11. How about?
I was just going to say, like, I to me, that's the perfect settings. The perfect, because it's not like 12 is okay. 12 and 13, it gets a little deep, right? And it gets to the point where like guys beyond Michael Gallup matter, and it's like, really, like KJ Osborne. Like KJ Osborne's the reason someone won a loss last week. Like, please. And I don't mean like the one blow up game where KJ Osborne has 40 points. I'm talking like KJ Osborne gave me 8 and your Michael Batty gave you 6. And it's like, I don't want to have to deal with these guys. Like, I don't want to have to deal with them. Like, they should be like preferably on the waiver wire, if given my druthers. But in start 11, it's like it's that perfect like in between, right? I can still go balls out and overpay for stuff and still survive it, though I don't suggest doing that. Or I could be frugal and just build a roster being all frugal.
Okay, let's go ahead, Scott.
No, I was going to say, I think it's also important to, and you can pull this data. There's a couple of websites that you can pull this data for free, and just go back and look at the distribution of scoring at the skill positions, especially even tight end. If you're just talking like 1.5 tight end premium, and just eyeball it. You don't really have to do any fancy math. Just eyeball by points per game. Now, points per game can be a little wonky too, because you can get players that score 40 one week and 6 the next week, and it says they average 23 per game. So you go, well, I'm locking in 23 points per game into my starting lineup. And well, not necessarily, because for every 40-point game, like think of like Gabe Davis. He had like 5 games of 20 or more points, and every other game was like 8 or less. So, I mean, like literally that's the definition of boom or bust. But you can see where if it's not best ball, you can see where certain formats, you actually don't even care about having those players. You're like, fine, I know from the wide receiver 24, I'm going to probably get 4 or 5 spike weeks a year, maybe 6. Every other game, they're going to suck. Now, we all think, okay, I can just load up on steady receivers and I know when I'm going to start them, right? But no, not necessarily. But if you think about, if you can start 6 receivers like you can in this format, having 6 of those guys that are going to give me 5 or 6, let's say 20+ point games a year, you kind of just go, all right, all I need is 1 or 2 of them a week. And then as long as the other guys give me 8, 10, 12, and they're not just taking zeros, I'm going to be fine. So it's not that hard to keep up with the Joneses at receiver in a format like this, because what we were talking about, you can throw in Josh Palmer one week, Juju the next week, Nico Collins the next week, and it's all the same across an entire season, which is why it's important to build your team around that. You don't want to go, oh, well, I need my receivers in this range to win me the league because my quarterbacks are Jared Goff and Derek Carr, right? You're like, I'm chasing higher end production. So it's all about how you're building your team and kind of accepting that I'm not going to have elite receivers. I'm not going to have a ton of elite running backs, but I have enough of them in my roster construction allows me to actually exploit it.
So I'll just put up Drews and we'll get there. I know, I'm sorry. But like there are leagues that I'm in where I'm like, oh, I got Shaheed and KJ Osborne. Great. I'm a good spot. And it's start 13. Hilton. Is T.Y. Hilton on the Giants?
Yeah.
Cowboys, I thought.
No, Cowboys.
He's on the Cowboys. I don't know if he means Hilton. I think he means Isaiah
another,
Hodgins, maybe. Hodgins.
Look, Hodgins is another one. And start 13, and we'll get there. I'm like, oh yeah, give me as many him as him that I can get on my roster.
Okay, so let's move to if you want to hit the hide button on that, Mr. Shane.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Let's move to a very shallow format. So 10 team, 1 QB, half PPR, start 8. Okay, so we get a bunch of questions, and it's this format. It's like, oh, I'm trading Jonathan Taylor and I'm getting 2 firsts. It's like, yeah, but it's a start 8. It totally neuters the value of picks. You just want hammers. We'll probably say hammers. What do you think? Over under 47 times tonight?
603.
603. So when you see a format like this, let's talk it through though. This is an example of what a 10-team start 8 could be: quarterback, running back, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So that's it. Talk, Scott. What do you think?
I mean, we already talked 10-team start 9. So now you're eliminating the Superflex spot, basically. Everything else applies. And now I think we get into even more of an extreme than in Superflex in terms of what you're going to pay for that quarterback, right? Like we talk all the time about the positional advantage, but like there isn't a format where probably the quarterback advantage is going to be more important than here because there's only 7 other starters. And so like even if you are just basic, let's say you have Jalen Hurts and there's a couple teams in your league that go, I'm not paying for a quarterback in a 1 QB, I'm just going to stream. And in your format, you're essentially giving up 10 points per game to Jalen Hurts, right? You have to think about it. I only have 7 other roster spots to make up that 10 points per game. So where am I going to get it at? What is the best bang for my buck that I can buy the point advantage if I only have 7 other spots? Because it's not going to be quarterback. So you probably sit there and go, how do I beat Jalen Hurts if all I have is, I don't know, let's just say Jared Goff, Russell Wilson. I'm going, I can platoon those because you know what? Both those guys can be top 15-ish, and I know when I'm going to start them. I know when they're going to have good matchups. Like, that sounds great on paper until you actually have to pick, and then half the matchups you pick wrong. Point is, though, you're sitting here going, okay, I'm not paying the prices for the elite quarterbacks because I go to Shane. I'm trying to buy. Shane's the asshole that has Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, and he wants 2 firsts for either one of them. And he's going, yeah, you know, I'm not going to give one to you, Clay, even though I can't start both. If I give you one, it just nullified a massive advantage that I'm holding over you. So I'm just going to kind of sit and wait till I get what I want. So this team's going, how do I match the quarterback advantage? It's either got to be probably a tight end. That's the easiest place to identify it and go, okay, it's not a tight end premium, but man, if I have Russell Wilson and Travis Kelce, that has a chance against Shane, who's starting Jalen Hurts and David Njoku. You know, like I have a chance to gain some points back. Then you have to sit there and go, okay, I probably can't play when I'm already taking 10-point loss at quarterback. I probably can't be relying on a bunch of wide receiver 2s and 3s and hoping for spike weeks. I need to go get a couple hammers. So I think it's just you almost have to look at every spot and go, where do I want to pay for the positional advantage? And where does my league allow me to buy the positional advantage? A lot of times if you have sharp members in your league, they all know it's a start 8. None of them trading their elite players. You got to be creative to get there. You got to take some risk.
And that's what we found, that the easiest place to do it is quarterback and tight end. And that's why I've been preaching the whole get a monster at quarterback in tight 1 QB leagues up until paying a first because they're worth it, right? I made a mistake when Patrick Mahomes' first season. I was playing in a 1 quarterback league, and I had the mindset of start 1 quarterback. Quarterbacks don't matter that much. I'm just going to deal him for a random first. Random first turns into like the 107 or something. Not a bad pick. I couldn't tell you who the player was, but I can tell you that Patrick Mahomes destroyed me like the next 2 years. Every time I look up and I'm like, oh, he had another 40-point game. Oh, he had another 40-point game. And I'm out here starting Kirk Cousins like, oh, he gave me 22. That's great. That's really wonderful. So you got to look for those edges. Like Scott's saying, like there's only a couple places that you can get them. And if you have to overpay to do so, you do it because it's start 8. So that means your mistakes even matter less because the starting roster is so small. It's easier to fix mistakes.
And I'll just add this, in those leagues, in shallower leagues, it's even more important to know the scoring relative to each of the positions. Because if you're in a league where the QB1s are scoring 28 per game, QB2s are scoring 18 per game, that's still going to be a massive advantage relative to what the running back 2s and the wide receiver 2s and the wide receiver 3s and the tight end 1s are scoring. So it's even more important that you go, dude, just give me the quarterback scoring 28 per game. Because even if someone has Travis Kelce in a non-PPR, they're scoring 16 a game, 17 a game. Like, yeah, they're crushing everybody else at the position, but they're still 11 points behind me because I have the elite quarterback. So it's knowing, and it could be the opposite in a 4-2 league with depressed passing. We've seen people ask questions and they go, it's 3 points per passing touchdown. Okay, that's probably one of the formats where I go, who cares who my quarterbacks are? Because they're all scoring so low relative to the other positions. I don't want the positional advantage at quarterback as much as I would running back or tight end. So shallower leagues, you got to look at the distribution of scoring and figure out where do you want to pay most for the advantage. And I agree with Shane. In these 1 QB non-tight end premium leagues, it's like, give me an elite quarterback and elite tight end. And then I'll just fill in the gaps of the sandwich and it'll taste good regardless.
It seems like in that format, it would be, excuse me, so hard if you're one of the bottom teams to get up to the top because picks aren't worth anything. I mean, I guess it depends on your league, but if your league is sharp and they're like, you know, these picks don't do anything for me, you're not getting my studs. How the hell do you work your way up from the bottom?
Well, let me just add this. That's why some of these formats like FFPC thrive because you know what? You know how you do it, Clay? You make the league really shallow. You make it FFPC. It's 20-man rosters that cuts down to 16. So you might have a stacked. And their 1 QB format, is exactly this: 8 starters. Now they have a kicker in defense, but we're effectively talking about the exact same thing here, right? We just don't have a kicker in defense, but they cut down to 16. So they make it really hard to accumulate value and depth that you can hoard from other people. So I think if you're going to be in a 10-team start 8, there's nothing worse
than a million bench spots.
And when you have 32-man rosters, because then the equity between the elite teams and the bad teams can be so far apart. And the elite teams, I mean, Shane was even saying it earlier, like the elite teams that they're already winning, they might be carrying 5 quarterbacks, and they're just going to sit on my bench. They're useless to me, but you know what? I have enough bench spots. You can't have them. So you have to have the equity to where it's like, okay, if you're going to do a really shallow league, it needs to be a shallow league across the board and give people chances to take more shots on waivers and with picks.
So Matthew's got a super chat for us. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it, man. One of two. Since we're talking different formats, I'm rebuilding in a 1 QB start 8 with a ton of draft picks: 101, 102, 107, 109, 111, and 201, and have no quarterback. What are you willing to spend to get an elite QB in 1 QB leagues? Fading them used to be the answer, but I think we value those guys differently now. Yeah, just like we were talking about. But looking at his picks, 101, 102, 107, 9, 11, and 201, what would you pay to get an elite quarterback there?
I mean, I'm frugal. I'm cheap. So I'm going to try to start with the 107? 109? I'm 111. I'm going to start with the 111. You know what I mean? I'm going to throw that at someone. And I also want to be specific when we talk about elite. We're talking about the quarterbacks that can put up crooked numbers, which is generally the quarterbacks with some rushing ability to them, right? Jalen Hurts, Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes when he feels like it, but he just kill you every other way, piece of shit. Lamar Jackson, sorry. Guys in that tier, like Fields. This is why we love Fields in this type of format, because he could be one of those dudes that gives you those just flat out crooked numbers. So yeah, I'm going to start with the 111, and then I'm going to go to the 109, then I'm going to go to 107. I'm not going to do 102 and 111. You know what? Because if you really want to be risky, just take freaking Bijan at 101 and then shock the world. No, don't do that. Trade back and then go take like Bryce Young, or don't take Bryce Young. Take Anthony Richardson. You know what I mean? Trade that 102 back, or if you can't make a deal to get someone, then draft Richardson at 107. Scott's guy.
Well, yeah, I was going to say Anthony Richardson is kind of your backup plan, but the thing is, you kind of know you're going to be able to get him if you want him. It's just trying to gauge, when do I have to use the pick to get him? Just think about it this way. This guy has a lot of good assets, right? Like, you should actually be able to turn a 1 QB start 8 league around if you're able to get the quarterback, because you're adding, literally, if you just give me a top 3 or 4 quarterback and Bijan, you're like, wow, I immediately go from bottom end team in the league to a team that now has potentially 2 of the 8 high positional advantage spots locked down, right? Like, that's almost enough to win in a lot of weeks if you just kind of put, points around them. But I think the main point looking at this is, let's say you're stuck drafting a receiver at 107, okay? 107 and 109. I'll offer you, probably in that range, you're going to be looking at Jalen Hyatt and Josh Downs. Do those guys interest you in a start 8?
Nope.
Only because they're like 2 levels away from being receivers that matter, right? So you really have to be convicted on, like, I know this receiver is going to be a difference maker. Otherwise, you're taking a lot of risk when you draft that receiver. When you draft that Zay Flowers or that Josh Downs, you're going, man, even if he becomes Brandon Ayuk or Jerry Jeudy, he doesn't even really matter that much. And it's hard to hit on a guy that's as good as Brandon Ayuk or Jerry Jeudy. Like, that doesn't just happen with every pick. So think about that in these formats. You go, it's not that valuable to draft receivers unless you're sure they're a hammer. So think about that when you're making those picks. And that's probably why, if you can shop those picks, it's not a bad idea to do it.
So which of these picks, let's just real quick, would you give for an elite quarterback in this format, Scott?
Depending on the quarterback scoring, like, I'm not opposed. I don't know what the rest of his team looks like. I don't know what else he can get with those other picks. I would be willing to give up to possibly even the 102. If you told me I can just have Mahomes And it's a league where he's scoring 25 plus points per game. Like, it sucks, but you kind of just got to bite the bullet. And then part of the strategy why you would take Mahomes is because you have all those other picks. Right. You're going to be able to spray and pray on 4 or 5 other skill player profiles, and you're going to go, all I need to do is hit on 1 or 2 guys that are, top 24 at their position at least. And now I've got Mahomes, Bijan, and whatever. So that's the reason you would do it.
It's going to be the fantasy, big name fantasy analyst most hated fucking roster, because I'm going to go, all right, I traded the 102 for Jalen Hurts, and then I drafted 4 running backs in the first with my other picks. Beat me. Your roster's fragile. I'm like, yeah, it is, but guess what? I'm still going to win the title.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can take advantage of people in shallow leagues like that, where you go, okay, they're sick of having Derrick Henry on their team, so they give you Derrick Henry for the 109. All of a sudden, you got Bijan, Derrick Henry, and Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, dude, that you have literally 3 of the 8 spots are dominant. You go from bottom feeder to, damn, you could have the best lineup in the league overnight, because someone else is sick of the, holding the old running back, and you're like, yeah, man, I'll take the advantage for even a short period of time.
Yeah. By the way, we're 40 minutes in. We haven't even addressed the crowd. Thank you so much for joining tonight. It's a Thursday. It's kind of weird. Normally it's a Tuesday, right? I saw people saying happy Tuesday. Oh, Thursday. We have 346 heads in here. So we have close to the usual amount that we have on the Tuesday night. So thank you for joining. If you're enjoying this content, as always, hit that little like. We'd appreciate that. Support the channel. Let's keep moving here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this, because we get tons of these questions. Always, what's the format? The importance of format cannot be underestimated. Okay, so let's go to a 12-team 1 QB PPR start 10. So it's a little bit deeper, obviously, than a 10-team start 8. So talk to me about this one.
Shane, your turn.
Sorry, I'm just messaging Clay.
Got it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll sit here for 2 minutes and wait for you to finish messaging Clay.
Well, I wasn't listening.
Great live streaming.
12-team, 1 quarterback PPR start 10. I mean, I hate saying like these are shades of the same thing. They're shades of the same thing. Like, this is barely different from a 9 start 9. Like, the difference is infinitesimal, if that's how you say the word. I don't know. I think that's how you work. Yeah, that's definitely how you say the word. Infinitesimal. It means small. Sure, you gotta be a little less aggressive, but like, really, it's the same concept to start 9, which is why, again, when we were talking about like my favorite lineups, 11, because that's when it starts changing. Like a 9 and a 10, I'll play largely the same. 1 quarterback or 2 quarterbacks, you know what I mean, depending on that part of it.
Yeah, I'll just add this. I mean, essentially a 12-team start 10 with 1 quarterback. You can kind of treat the skill players the same as you would in the earlier format when we talk 12-team start 11 Superflex. You're just eliminating the Superflex. You still have to look at the quarterback scoring and determine what that positional advantage is worth. But I think the skill players are expanded out to the same ranges that they would have been previously when we talked about that like 15 minutes ago. So you are looking at in this format where, the Josh Palmers, the Nico Collins, like those guys, they do matter. Doesn't mean you pay them for them, but they matter. They're going to be in lineups. So it's okay to not have, a hammer at every single position. Now you probably want a little more focus on the hammers at the skill players, because the quarterback hammers are not as valuable. I mean, think about how important it is having 2 quarterback hammers in a 12-team Superflex versus a 12-team 1 QB. You still want to have the elite quarterback where you can get them, but you're not, crowding out the field as much if you only can start one of them. So it's really just the difference, but you don't want to just pay through the nose for, elite receivers or whatever in this format, because the scarcity is basically the same.
Okay, let's get caught up on some of the questions here, and then we can talk about a little bit about the deeper formats like 14-team, 16-team, things like that. But that's less of the crowd. So let's go to Cameron here. Very important question. Startup round 3208 or Shane's X? You know the one. You guys are goated. Love the content. Thank you, Cameron. Appreciate that. Shane, what's your answer there?
We're going to go to 3208, and maybe Cameron follows me on Twitter when I shared my Valentine's story, how I was dumped twice on Valentine's Day by the same woman, non-consecutive years, like 3 years apart. So yeah, I
Nicely
would
done.
definitely take the 3208.
All right, thank you for that super chat. Let's go to this one right here from Lewis. Would you trade the 101 for Garrett Wilson and the 204?
No,
I wouldn't in any format. No.
that's not gonna. That's a no-go. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trading the 101 and you're only getting a single player, you're still only doing that for Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, even if you have to add more on your end, right?
Yeah, I love Garrett Wilson, but Bijan's worth more than that.
Would you give the 101 for CD Lamb and the 110?
What format are we talking?
Let's say it's a
Start
12 team
13?
super flex, start 10.
No.
Yeah, probably not. My counter to this in most formats would be I need a strong 2-for-1 regardless, and it's probably got to be a 24 first or a top 6 pick. And here's the thing: most people are not going to just add a top 6 pick to CeeDee Lamb or Garrett Wilson to get the 101. Like they're going to look at that as an overpay. So just the 101 conundrum, it continues.
Hey, try to get the 24 first instead. That's what you can do, and just hope that it's better than the 110. Statistically, it should be.
Yep. Thank you for that super chat. Let's go to an inbox offer here. Let's help them out. So it's a 12 team super flex, start 10, get Fields and a 23 third, give Tua and the 107.
Yes.
Done.
I mean, we have our concerns about Tua, but even putting those aside, I would do this because the upside of Fields is Jalen Hurts. Obviously not the same exact player, but like that scoring Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson type level.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an easy smash. Hopefully you've already done that. This one's just funny. B Demps, if you're in here and you're in my league, get out. It's so funny. Sometimes in the comments, I see someone ask a question, and then somebody will pile on top of that question, be like, "Yeah, I would like to know the answer of that too. I'm in that league." Okay, let's go to Carson here. Thank you for the super chat, Carson. Traded the 107 and a late second for Olave. 12 team Superflex PPR. Wide receivers are Chase, Hollywood, JMO. QBs are Lamar and Kyler. Stevenson at RB, nothing else. That's such cheap Olave.
Yeah,
well.
I mean, if that was an early second, if that was the 107 and the 112, and you got Olave, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine.
Good deal.
Are you guys paying the 103 for Chris Olave right now? I mean, that's top value for him, right?
It's risky. But I've talked about this. I basically have him in that range with AJ Brown in them. So I can't say that out one side of my mouth and then say I wouldn't pay the 103 for him. You could get the 103 from me and under the right circumstances for Chris Olave. I'd probably try to steal a second back just to make me feel better, but you could get it done.
It's interesting because Shane took the 103 over AJ Brown earlier.
Yeah.
But again, it's so close that
it's 9:21 p.m. right now. It was not 9:21 p.m.
Look,
earlier.
you send me the offer, and we're going to see which way the wind blows because he's enough in value that I can talk myself into either side.
He wrote a Chris Olave article since he answered that question. He's been doing that while he's streaming.
He's always doing something.
Chris Olave was actually my Valentine this year.
Oh, there you go. Carson, thank you for that super chat, man. Appreciate it. Let's go to another one here. This is from Steve Moon. Thank you, sir. Have the 101 and a 12 team start 10, no tight end premium. Have Fields, Watson, Walker, Khalil Herbert, Ridley, Metcalf, Hollywood, Mooney, Pitts. Take Bijan or trade back. There's no QB3 on his team.
I think you can do either one. Took Bijan, no one's going to complain because you kind of already have, your setup. You can justify you have your setup at quarterback already, so you're good there. You have Kyle Pitts, so you have those two like anchor positional advantages that we would look for, even in a non-tight end premium. But you could also say I'm trading back if I get the right deal, right? If I get one of those receivers we just mentioned, and another first, something like that, I'd consider it. So it's just got to be the right deal. It's got to be a 12-team start 10. It's got to be a two for one. I don't want 4 pieces. I don't want 3 pieces. It's got to be a 2 for 1. So if you can get 2 really good starters, do it.
10-team, 12-team start 10. I got Fields, Watson, Walker, Bijan. Yeah, I'm taking Bijan. My wide receivers aren't as strong as I like, but I'll be okay with that with Bijan and Kenny Walker at my running back. And your quarterback 3 on the team, I don't care. Go trade us late second for Jimmy Garoppolo or something.
Jimmy G. Okay, let's go to another one here that I had in the hopper. It was on tiered PPR. So what's the proper roster construction when running backs are half PPR and they have a small point per carry, wide receivers are full PPR, and tight ends are 2 PPR? And there might be some receiving first down bonuses and things of that nature in there as well. Scott, this happens to be your favorite format, is what I've learned. You love you some tiered PPR. You find your way into lots of them.
Well, this is also like asking me a math equation and you're like, there's 4 variables, solve for all of them. There's a lot going on here. I'll just say, just to address it in order, half PPR is going to push the running backs into the flexes a little more than receivers, or equal with receivers, right? Point per carry is going to push the running backs in the flexes at a much higher rate, 60% or more. And then tight ends at 2 PPR is going to push tight ends into the flexes more than the other positions. So my takeaway here, and people don't like to hear this, and this is why if you start leagues like this, you can exploit the hell out of everybody else, because they're still thinking that Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, CD Lamb, those are the players that matter. They're going to still go in the second freaking round, when the reality is, man, I can just keep loading up on running backs, tight ends. I have to have my enough receivers covered, but I'm probably willing to take a little bit of an L at the receiver position and go, I don't need receivers in my flexes like I would in a PPR league. Where you take advantage of this is people stop taking tight ends, and you're going, damn, that Tyler Higbee outscored, AJ Brown.
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen? They're like, well, no one value. You can get 10 Tyler Higbees for 1 AJ Brown. So yeah, that's my takeaway. Receivers matter less.
Yep. Ooh, I got to hit this one. I realized that this was at the top. This is a missed super chat from our last live stream. He was like, can you put it on this one? Yes, of course. Apologies again. Here we go. One
Shane.
of 2. Shane, what?
That's a missed super chat.
Oh, I didn't miss that. No, that was his fault.
Okay. 104, 105, and 108 or Justin Fields. It's a 12-team Superflex, no PPR, start 9. Elite QBs plus Tua, Watson, Ione, Kyler were unattainable. League mates don't trade QBs. So he's saying the elite QBs and Tua, Watson were unattainable. Can't get them. The second is QBs are Kyler, Carr, wide receivers Chase, Waddle, Amon-Ra, Deontay, Cooks, running backs Etienne, Swift, AJ Dillon, tight end Dulcich, Irv Smith. There's no interest in his Carr, Deontay, or Swift. Okay. So let's go back to the start. 104, 105, 108. You paying that for Justin Fields?
With what he said, I got to give him credit, or she, for basically trying to get all the elite quarterbacks.
It's the diligence. Yeah.
You know how your league values them now. With that said, this might be one where I just let it ride. I might take 2 quarterbacks here. If the league's going to hold on to him like that, I might bite the bullet and take QB2, QB3 at 104 and 105 and hope that I hit on one of the 2. And they turn into, 2 is on the very, very bottom end, but they turn into a Kyler. They turn into Dak Prescott, something like that.
Yeah, I'd
let it ride here.
It's funny. I was literally thinking the same thing. I'm going, all right, 104, I'm getting Anthony Richardson. And at 105, I guess I'm drafting Will Levis, whatever his name is. I'll probably draft a real player at 105, and then I'll just draft Will Levis at 108 if he's there. No, I'll draft the 2 quarterbacks and just screw these people. And then guess what? You're the quarterback story after that. Yeah, do that.
I was thinking the exact same thing too. I immediately had Richardson and Levis in my head. Bless you, Melissa. Okay, let's move this one here. Sorry again for missing that super chat. I'm glad we remembered to hit it this time. Okay, let's go to our boy Heavy Kevy. Shane's going to do the Canadian calculations there for the super chat.
$36.
Yep. Thank you either way.
The
12
slow
team Superflex PPR. Tight ends are 1.5. Best ball. Start 11. 24-man rosters. Give Kadarius Toney the 109 and 209. Get Amon-Ra and Mike Evans. Appreciate you guys. We appreciate you, buddy.
Start 11. Wow, that Kadarius Toney really makes me. I'm going to go
Amon-Ra and
Mike
Mike
Evans. Even
all
in best
day.
ball, I know you're giving up 3 pieces, but Kadarius Toney is not a starter. I don't care if it's best ball or not.
The biggest driver of this is it's 11 starters, 24-man rosters. You're freeing up a roster spot, which is literally like equivalent to the 209. So you're literally picking out a extra player that you can get off waivers that's going to be that can fire in best ball. So that's the easy deal to do.
Okay. Yeah, that's the part that I'm not savvy enough on is the value of a roster spot. And cutting dead weight, like clearing out a roster spot is actually better because there's somebody who you can pick up on waivers who's gonna be better than the waiver player you already have. I don't know. I'll eventually get to the 90 chess like you guys. Okay, let's go to this one. Looks like it's question into inbox. How does roster/scoring settings change the elite cornerstones you would target? I have an offer in a 1 QB, 12 team start 8, half PPR, 1 point per, first down. Get Chase and Ken Walker for Brees, Garrett Wilson, Toney, and the 309.
Wait, real quick. I just need to put this out there. I know Kadarius Toney had a good Super Bowl. He sucks. He's terrible. He's trash. He's I can't think of another euphemism for that, but he's basically a receptacle. Stop it. He is not
is he like a compost bin?
He's a compost heap. He's whatever you find in the garbage disposal, the bottom. Don't make sure the thing is off when you put your hand in there. Toney doesn't matter. That's all I wanted to say.
I mean, it's Brees and Garrett Wilson for Chase and Kenneth Walker. Right. The funny thing is, you could probably say like in 2 years, it's possible that the Brees and Garrett Wilson side actually didn't do too bad in this deal. So I'm kind of looking at it like, give me the better 2 players right now. I'd rather have Chase and Kenneth Walker, but it's a 2-for-2 trade. Like it isn't one of those where there's a lot of calculus to necessarily figure out. It's really just a bet on which running back ends up better, and then you're taking the best receiver. That's it. You're
taking the wide receiver 2 right now against a guy who I really like in Wilson, but he's not the wide receiver right now.
Easy do it.
That's too high of a bet to make to give up Chase.
The summary is someone else actually, you can just tell by the offer, they see a little value in Kadarius Toney. So get rid of him.
Yeah, no, he would be getting Brees and Toney side. He's got Chase in that one.
No, I read that as he's getting.
No, it was Chase and Ken Walker for Brees Hall.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I read that as the get he put first.
Either way, we like the Chase side.
Yes. Right? If it's the other side, what the hell are you thinking wanting Kadarius Toney?
Kadarius Toney doesn't matter.
Andrew Stevenson, thank you for your super chat, man. Superflex start 10. Got Burrow and Lawrence with the 102. RBs are Walker, Dobbins, Javonte, and Prince. Should I just go Gibbs at 102 or stack at QB?
Who is Prince?
I guess King Henry? I don't know.
There's the dude that's coming into the league that no one can pronounce his name. Israel. No, not him. All right. I don't know who that is.
That's definitely not Prince.
Not him. Okay. We would like to trade this 102 back for a Val if we could. We talked about that a little bit on the 102 show and Superflex. Like I guess I can take Gibbs, but I really don't want to be forced to take Gibbs at 102. So if I can't do that,
you don't need a running back.
Yeah, this is one of those where I go and spam for all those receivers that are in that. This is the team you would trade the 102 potentially for AJ Brown, right?
Yeah. Definitely wouldn't go Gibbs at 2. Either quarterback or yeah, what they said. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Andrew, thank you very much. Let me see what else we got. Scrolling down. We have some multiple parters here. There we go. What side do you prefer as a contender in 1 QB? Sutton and the 101 or the 104, 107, 111 and Warren?
101.
Yeah, Sutton doesn't matter, but that 101 is pretty awesome. Jalen Warren, it's 1 QB. Yeah, Bijan.
Think about it this way: in a 1 QB, Cortland Sutton, as much as we might not like him, is probably equivalent to somewhere in the 10, 108, 109, 110, 111 range. Yeah. You probably don't want to pay it because he's 28, not very good. But who you drafting at 111? That's where you're taking Zay Flowers. You're like, well, I hope he becomes Cortland Sutton. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, just take the 101. And why I don't understand the logic of why someone would offer the 101 in a deal like this and go, man, I'm getting that 104 and that 107, that 111. Yeah, take it.
Yeah, definitely the 101 side there.
Well, I will say this. Say you are absolutely terrible, right? Because you're just bad at drafting. You've got just an absolute. Well, let's say you're not bad at drafting.
So you're the Kadarius Toney of dynasty drafting.
Yes. Say you took over an orphan, right? And your assets are the 101, and then your next best wide receiver is I can't think of anyone's name. Michael
Just try to picture Shane's
Michael
brain.
Michael Gallup. And your best running back is Devin Singletary. I might think about that, but my team would have to be pretty barren for me to make that deal.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of orphan, I said I was going to do this, and we'll see if I can do it properly. What button, Shane Scott, do I press to show my screen or show my browser?
Share screen.
Where is it?
Present at the bottom.
Present. Okay.
You don't give me the rights to anything on this show.
Share screen. Hide certain things. Okay. It wants to. It's open system settings. So I have to give this. Sorry, give me 1 second.
This is risky. This is very risky. You want us to hit another question while you're
no. Up? Here, let me see if I can get it right now. Unlock. Okay. Ooh, this is risky. It's like leave site, changes may not be saved. If I go away, then yeah, hit a question.
Okay, well, good for Clay. Thanks for stopping by tonight. How
about this one, Shane? Go Birds.
Yeah, Lou. Look, there's always next year, right? But like I was telling my buddy as we were watching the end of that game, I said, hey, remember in, I don't know what year it was, Donovan McNabb's second year, I think, and we were facing, the Eagles were facing, I think they were the St. Louis Rams at the time in the NFC Championship, and they lost, and we said, don't worry about this. We're going to have plenty of time to win a title. They're going to have plenty of time to win a title, and they never did. Tomorrow's not promised.
Okay, keep going. It was when Google Chrome is like, are you sure you want to leave? And it's that green or that blue leave button. I was like, yep, boom, gone. All right, go ahead. Did they announce the orphan winner? That's what I was trying to do. The life of Liam, because I was going to pull up a 100-yard rush with the 10 folks. After I did, there was like 140 people who qualified, something like that. I hit the spin the wheel thing a bunch of different times to get down to 10. And my 5-year-old Charlie helped me do it. And we have 10 folks in the 100-yard rush that I was going to pull up. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to run the rush and then tell you guys who won. Okay.
Maybe do it on a separate video or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a terrible decision to try to do it because you left the devices to Shane and I, and we immediately went to a Go Birds question, and he was telling a story about the Eagles 20 years ago. So
nice.
That's where it went.
Well, here, let's get a question up here, the start, and I will. Okay, here's a one right here. Mike Gardner, locked in favorite show. Yes. We missed a stream, and we still got him. We still held on to him. Thank you for the super chat, man. How many seconds would you want for a late first? 109-ish if one of the seconds is early. So would you rather have the 109 or the 202 and 206?
Probably got to know the format. That's the first thing. But assuming it's a 12-team start 10, depending on my roster construction, I can see both sides of that. You're just essentially betting where's the tier break going to be. And if it's 108, 107, then you're good. If it's 110 or 109, you're pissed. So
I'm gonna hold that 109. Look, it's got the 10 in front of it. It's a valuable asset. It's super valuable. Twos, I like seconds. Like if we're looking from an actual, like say the draft is here, and it's like, all right, now I need to make moves and I want to add players to my roster. Maybe I wasn't listening to what you said, but yeah, would I take like the 202, the 204, and the 208? Probably, but up until then, I'm not going to do it, and I'd hold until I was on the clock.
Okay. All right, we'll move that one there. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. We're always glad to retain you. Okay, Tyrese Gilmore, thank you for the super chat. 12-team, start 9, Superflex, half or 0.5 tight end premium. Have Chase, AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Dotson, the 101, 102, 202, 209. Only quarterback is Herbert. Should I trade a wide receiver for QB or draft one at 102?
Well, we're always going to say trade a receiver for a QB if you can get one. It depends on what QB. I'm not trading Jamar Chase for Kyler Murray. But if you can get a top 6 quarterback, top 8 quarterback, then I'll consider moving anybody you have. The 101, Jamar Chase. Or you could go, you could get a little frisky and go, I'm going to hold the picks. I have no rush. Look at all these elite players that I have. I have all the toys everyone wants. Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown. There's no rush to trade those guys. I could take a quarterback at 102 and play it that way. I could try to trade the 102 for a quarterback, depending on what the market looks like. But I like having this many assets that are on this high end range, so you can play it a multiple of ways. That's my answer. We'll see what Shane says, because I know how hard it is for Shane to trade away a Jamar Chase or a 101. I just know it.
Okay, so 101's on the block for a quarterback. 102's on the block for a quarterback. More specifically, I'd prefer obviously the 102. I would trade that 102 all day for one of the quarterbacks that we really, really like. I'll give them the 202 too if they'd like that, if that'll help get it done. You got to trade a wide receiver for a quarterback if you get them. Try Chase for Patrick Mahomes. See if someone's silly enough in your league to do something like that. How about Chase for Jalen Hurts? Like if someone's just going to be goofy, go for it. And if they are, then also trade them John Dotson. I don't know why you listed him as a premier asset here, but also trade him to that same goofy person that makes that deal and get a better player from them or pick.
I think 102 and Dotson is a legitimate offer, even if it's a low ball offer on a quarterback. I think you could send that and be like, I'm trying to get to a price point here. And if they won't trade him, they won't trade him. There's many times where people just go, I'm just not trading them.
Okay, let's move that one. We got a 2-parter here. Jack, thank you for the super chat. 14-team PPR 1 QB was rebuilding last year. I have Dak, Lamb, Sutton, Burks, Christian Watson. This year I have the 101, 102, 104, 108, 112, 113. I was offered Drake London and the 202 for the 102. Should I make this move or just wait? What other move should I make? So Drake London and the 202 for his 102. Or I'm sorry. Yes, for his 102.
Yeah, I mean, knowing that you have the 101, I'm okay paying the 102 for Drake London in a single QB. That's fine. Doesn't mean the team is exactly where you want it to be, but on the surface, that's not a terrible deal. Now, unless this is like 13 starters, I assume it's probably like 9. So I'm okay doing it.
And you're getting the 202 thrown in. I like that. I mean, just for funsies. So, yeah, I'll do this deal.
Would you rather try to throw that 102 on top of, Sutton, Burks, or Christian Watson and try to get someone better than Drake London now? Like a tier above? Would that be preferable? Or
I don't understand the question, and I'm not going to answer it.
I
Like
think
Jalen Waddle. Like go.
I'd rather have Drake London.
Okay, first of
than
all,
Jalen
Jalen
Waddle.
Waddle is not better than Drake London. I
That's
much
where
prefer Drake London.
Shane and I are on the same page here.
How about Olave? How about
Okay,
Olave? Would you rather try to go up
yeah,
and get him
I'll give up.
102 and Burks?
I give up 102 and Burks for Olave, but that's too much.
No, London's as good as Olave and Wilson. I'm not adding Treylon Burks.
The bottom of that tier, that 3-man tier.
Yeah,
and I like him.
If it's in your inbox, I'm not getting cute unless it's like 7 starters. I'm just taking the deal.
Okay. But yeah, no, look, let's get Drake. You know, sometimes it's okay to be happy with what you have. You don't have to always look for something better. Always.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you end up eating macaroni and cheese on Valentine's.
That's why. That's how you never get. That's how Clay never gets deals done with Shane, right?
Yeah. Well, Clay.
Shane sends more than fair offers, and Clay just is always looking for something better.
Yeah, always trying to get me to add on.
They're always like just meh.
That's not
true.
Yeah,
they are. No, what I know it is it's not your best, and you know me. Just send your best. It's like it's obviously in your favor, and it's almost like a little bit of like a, I don't know, like you're poking me with something, prodding me with some blunt instrument.
Look, as much as I don't like talking and I say I don't like communicating, sometimes I like to dance a little bit. You know what I mean? I like to dance a little bit, and you just won't dance with me.
Hey, skip the foreplay. All right, Nathan, thank you for the super chat. He put it in pre-live, so add it below just in case. Of course, Shane nailed it. Part 1, decent chance of winning it next year. Should I trade Dak for a rookie QB, or would that go backwards in roster construction? It's a 10-team Superflex start 9. He's got Dak. Okay, Dak, DeAndre Swift for the 106, 110, and 204. I have knowledge that CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Richardson will be at the 106. I have Dak, Justin Fields, Russ, Javonte, AJ Dillon, Jefferson, CD, London, Andrews, 101, 108, 206. Okay. So should he give Dak and Swift for the 106, 110, and 204?
Dak and Swift for the 106, 110, No.
Yeah, I think he's overthinking this. I think what he's trying to say is, can he still win, but also get rid of Dak and essentially try to upgrade at quarterback by getting CJ Stroud? Or there's a big difference between CJ Stroud and Will Levis. So that's different. If you told me I'm guaranteed to get CJ Stroud, then you could argue, okay, I'll just take CJ Stroud over Dak. But he already said he's set up to win. He already has a bunch of picks. I would much rather be looking at that 106. Can I get a first next year with my group of picks? He actually has the 108. Can I get the shittiest teams first next year for the 108 and the 206? That's how you turn this into a hammer, because I'm adding Bijan Robinson to an already good team, and I've gone to the worst team, and I've just gotten their 24 first. Maybe that's a top 4 pick next year. So that's what I'd be looking to do. I'm not getting cute.
Scott, can you drive for a second? I'm creating a banner to throw up on the screen here in a bit.
I always knew I'm the best driver besides Clay. Shane gets in all them accidents. All right, here, Shane, we got one for you. This is a good one because you like a lot of players in this deal.
Ooh, good, I like players.
King Jeter, I believe is how I would say it. 6-point passing touchdown, start 10. Lamar or Justin Jefferson or Josh Allen, DK Metcalf in the 210.
Lamar and Justin Jefferson. You just shove that 210 up your butthole. And I like Metcalf. I do like Metcalf. But Lamar, as usual, is getting disrespected. People are thinking that he's like several tiers below Josh Allen. That is hogwash and malarkey. Don't get fooled like the Ravens did by not giving him a contract. He's going to look great in Atlanta next year with Drake London, Kyle Pitts. And if not, he'll be in, what do you call that place? Baltimore, still doing what he does, putting up a bunch of just insane points. So, yeah, I'm going to take Lamar in the wide receiver 1A.
I'm okay with it, but I could also see where someone would go, I'm fine with Josh Allen and DK Metcalf in the pick. Like, I think it's closer that it's just like it's an obvious smash. But I do think with Justin Jefferson, you have the chance to do a lot more with that pick or having that player versus having DK Metcalf in the 210. So I would take it for that reason. And then, what else can I do with that? So I don't know if you have any thoughts, Clay, but I think I'd take the JJ and Lamar side.
I'm going Lamar, JJ, no doubt. Okay, so if you want to pull that one down, Scott, I will put this up. All right, so here we are not on Spotify, Curtis. We're
only on the YouTubes, bro.
We're only on the YouTube machine. Okay, so these are the 10 folks who have a chance of getting first right of refusal for this orphan in the 16-team Dynasty Trades in 5 auction league. We call it the auction league because it was an auction startup. What a hot mess it was. JPB, David Elliott, Graphic 13, Colin Hurley, Austin Connor, Reaver, Mr. Wonderful, Alex, and Jeffrey Jacobs. So I know this is bad podcasting. This is bad Spotifying if we were on there, right?
That's only 9.
That's not only 9. Don't screw with me.
I'm counting them. 1, 2,
That's
3,
also 9.
4, 5, 6, 7,
confirm.
8, 9.
I can confirm that's 9. Unless J and PB are 2 different people.
No, J and PB are the same people. That's
you
9.
definitely missed one. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
definitely 9.
Clay,
That's a 9er.
I would have assumed it would have been me, not you.
So, all right. So it's going to come down to these 9 then. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to start the rush here.
Oh, this is exciting! Exciting. We're going to do a question while this goes. Or?
Shane and I can't see the rush either, so I'm sorry if anybody on the screen.
There's 10 people rushing. Like, so maybe I just didn't type one in or something.
Okay, the best is going to be the one not listed on the graphic.
JPB had his Wheaties. He's up there at the top, just smashing this 100-yard rush. Mr. Wonderful's trying to make a late run. They did not. JPB is going to have first right of refusal. And then we're going to have, looks like if he or she doesn't want it, then looks like Austin's going to get the second crack at it. Mr. Wonderful really lost it there at the end.
That's Austin Connor. That's my long lost relative of some capacity.
So JPB will reach out to you and yeah, send you that invite. And yeah, I can share the link to this.
Yeah, but I mean, just as we noted, part of the ritual of joining the league is you have to make a trade with me.
Correct, you do. Okay, let's keep going here. 9:49. Let's go to Coltrane. We have a 3-parter here, and this is just Scott. Coltrane wants nothing to do with Shane and myself. Yeah, I know. Throw it down. So Scott, just read it too. Like, you have to do all of this. No, I got you. Need your help, Scott. I'm coming off of rebuild year, but have forfeited starter strength to add value on buy lows in 2022. 12 teams, start 9, 3 IDP. QB Lance, Mack, Stafford. Running back Akers. 11 running backs from Herbert to Josh Kelly. Wide receiver London, Ayuk, DJ Moore, Hollywood, Mooney, Elijah Moore, Bateman. Tight end, we're looking at Freiermuth, Chig, likely Bellinger. 101, 102, 112, 202, 211. At least go on mute, Shane, if you're going to be doing whatever in the background there. Let's see. And then the 3-part, 2 firsts in 24 and 25. Close to doing London and the 102 for Deshaun Watson and AJB. Assuming Bijan won't get me closer to an elite RB, what other moves would you make to start coming out of the rebuild? Okay. So real quick, it's 12 teams, start 9, 3 IDP. And this is his first half of his team.
I see him. Well, I'm smashing the Deshaun Watson and AJ Brown for Drake London in the 102. I mean, you're winning that deal, and that puts you much closer to your roster construction that you want to chase. I know you don't have 2 elite quarterbacks, but now you have Deshaun Watson plus 3 other quote unquote starters. So really, it's just using those other picks. This would be a team I'd be fine adding Bijan to. You still need talent at the other spots. Like, you still need more receivers. You still need probably more running backs. More importantly, you're probably going to need to recycle running backs in and out if you're playing this way. I think that's the biggest thing people miss is that if you're going to kind of punt running back, you need to always be watching the running back landscape. You don't want to hold guys 6 months too long. You don't want to have guys at the end of the year where it's like, yeah, he hasn't been on a roster all season. So I think that's a big thing. It's still a start 9. I know there's the IDP in a start 3 IDP. It's not going to matter much. You're going to be able to stream, so I wouldn't even worry about that. So in a start 9, how do I consolidate? Now I'm looking at 112, 201, 211, plus some of those other fringe players people might like. Too many tight ends. That's another thing. You're carrying 4 tight ends. 3 of them are essentially just backups, so you don't need 3. You can use Freiermuth and one of the others. Anything else, you're just trying to consolidate. How can I kind of package a guy like Darnell Mooney or Elijah Moore or a tight end and 112, 202, 211 to add another starter or 2. But I think you're fine. If you get Watson and AJ Brown and you add Bijan in a start 9, I think you're good. I think you just proceed there.
Yeah, what a good way to come out of a rebuild and get that kind of deal right off the bat. Sean Watson and AJ Brown. Yeah,
hopefully he says it sounds like he said he's close to it until it's one of those where he's close to it until he actually sends it and the guy goes, "No,
ghosts.
You're nuts."
Yeah, ghosts.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move that one. Thank you, Scott. And you'll just get that whole super chat as well. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, hey guys.
Oh, hi, Shane. How are you? Yeah.
Shane went on mute, but you can still hear him breathing.
We got
seething in the background.
We got 300. He smoked a cigarette real quick. 354 people in here. We have 4 likes for Shane's uncles. Thank you for joining. Again, this is awesome. Look down, hit that like if you hadn't already. We'd appreciate it. David Fisher is asking if he's crazy for trading away Mahomes for Fields, the 101, and a top 5 24 first. 12-team, 1 QB, start 9, PPR. There's a bonus for first downs, 6 point per passing touchdown. Strong at wide receiver with Cup, CD, and T. Weak at running back with Brees and RB2s and 3s. Thanks, guys. Love the show. Thanks, David.
I'll say this. On the surface, it looks like an absolute smash to get Fields in the 101 and the extra first. But I know David listens because you can tell he lists the 6 point per passing touchdown and the passing first downs, which probably means Mahomes is
a monster in this
wrecking the league in this format. So he's probably more hesitant to give up that advantage because it may be a good 10 points a game higher than Justin Fields. You know what I mean? So
but he's getting Bijan.
Dude, I'm going
top 5.
Give me the risk. Give me the risk.
I'm okay doing it.
I'm getting Fields who could end up scoring as much as Pat Mahomes. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I'm
in
also
this format. I guarantee he won't.
I'm just.
He'd need to run for like 4,800 yards.
He could do it. But I'm also getting Bijan, and I'm getting a 24 top first. Yeah, I'll take the risk and do it.
What you do here is you get the deal, and then you go to like the Josh Allen manager, and you try to send him Fields in the 24 first. See if he accepts it, and if so, you're like, oh, cool, I got Josh Allen in the 101 for Mahomes. Try it.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be the league would just be silent. It would just be crickets. Everybody's just pissed off. All right, thank you, David. Appreciate that. Okay, we have this is a 3-parter here. It says league format change. Thanks for the super chat, Steven. 12-team, 1 QB, start 10, PPR, moving to Superflex, start 11 in 2024. Congratulations. That's a big move. Rebuilding, the best way to approach the 2023 draft. He's got the 102, 110, 202, 210. Picks 1 to 7 aren't QB needy teams. Not to say a QB won't be chosen. Sentiment is no one wants to make the first move, especially if they can get a piece to compete in 1 QB. Best way to arbitrage this? Quarterbacks are Herbert, Stafford, Love, Howell, Willis. Assets are Lamb, DK, Dotson, Kittle, and likely the 101 and 102 in 2024. Want Stroud Young, but not at 102. Draft 2+ QBs overall, then trade extra QBs for wide receivers and running backs in 24.
So my initial thoughts were he probably doesn't have a contending team next year, which is kind of what he says. Like he's looking to, does he rebuild? How does he get to hitting the right format in 2024? Does anyone have 2 elite quarterbacks right now that they would consider trading one for the 102? Superflex, they wouldn't do it. But if they have a free year where they go, damn, I can add Jahmyr Gibbs, just as he said, somebody that thinks they can get a hammer contending piece in a 1 QB, maybe they trade you a Lamar. Maybe they trade you a Deshaun Watson right now because it's not going to Superflex for next year. So I would try that. Other than that, I mean, I'm less likely to really care about 2023. So if other people are going to fade the quarterbacks, I'm okay just taking them where he has those picks, the 110 and the 202. He might get a quarterback there. And as soon as the format changes, it's a steal.
Would you give the 102 for Kyler?
No.
No.
Don't have to, especially if you know the rest of the league is going to kind of
total bailout of that other
exactly.
manager.
They have to pay I have to wait a year and you can't use Kyler for a year tax. They got to pay a little bit on top. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that helped you out there, Steven.
This feels like one of those ones where you're just overthinking stuff, man.
Let's give props to his league though for actually moving to a super flex and not replacing one of the flexes with the super flex. They added a starter. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Good job.
Yeah. We've had a couple in a row here that are like great use of punctuation, easy for me to read. Appreciate that. All right.
No, I've been working with the community.
You've been, yeah. I should have known. I should have figured that. Okay, let's go to this one right here. Just got to throw this up real quick. It was funny. I was watching another Dynasty show and must have been one of our listeners, and he was talking about hammers. The guy on the show was confused and didn't know what a hammer was. There's certain words you hear and you're like, okay, yeah, they're Dynasty Trades and 5 community supporter here. That's good stuff. Or when people ask how many you start, or give that out right off the bat. It's like, yeah.
Yep.
We got you. Okay. Thomas, thank you for the super chat here. We've got a 5-parter and he apologizes. He says it would have been more than $199, but he's a broke college student. That's okay, man.
Hey,
okay.
But just real quick,
yes.
as a life lesson, a good way in college to make money is sell drugs.
Yeah, talk about life coach Shane. Shane is always open for business to be a life coach if anyone is interested. Yeah. Choose wisely. Okay, part 2. Sorry, this is the continued. What are you waving at? Oh. Do I need to stop talking? Like, what do I do? You're waving at me.
That was a kid of mine.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in a 10-team start 11 Superflex. I messaged you guys a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you remember, but I just got Mahomes and Waddle for 5 firsts. I still have T-Law, Brees Hall, Chase, Amon-Ra, Burks, London Pitts, 101, 103, 201. I'm taking Bijan. I'm super high on JSN, but I also like Bryce Young a lot. Should I just draft JSN and wait until next year for a QB3? I have 2 firsts for next year too, and at least 1 will be high. I couldn't. Oh, the small part 5 is him saying sorry that he couldn't give more. No, thank you, man.
Well, Thomas, I'll just say this. You're not going to be broke for long if you just keep running absolute train on leagues like this. So get into more of these leagues, get into about 200 of them and build teams like this, and you should be able to win the pot more often than not. Like, you have more assets than anybody could even dream of needing in a 10-team league. And so, you know what? If you want to take Jackson Smith and Jigba at 103, go for it. There's better things you can do with the pick, including shop it for a better receiver. But
try to buy one.
If that's who you want, I mean, none of us are going to be like, that's terrible. Never do it. You got 3 months to decide, but good job on the team.
I'd say it's terrible. No. Yeah, that's fine. Probably Jordan Addison, but same difference.
Yeah, I can't wait to see landing spots, man. It's gonna be. I know it's every year we say this, and I know the whole landing spots don't matter. I was listening to the fantasy intervention draft yesterday.
Well, they don't. They don't. It's draft capital is what matters.
Yeah.
There are some teams that are just absolute train wrecks that you do not want people going to, but yeah. But I mean, more importantly, like we had all the big name analysts like Dane Brugler and Lance Zierlein and Todd McVay, like they've all had put out like scouting lists and mock drafts. So yeah, it's getting real, baby.
It's getting real. Okay, let's move this one. Thank you for that super chat. Good luck in college. All right, what's the next one here? We've got a couple more. 12-team Superflex best ball. 2 tight end premium. Yeah, there's only 1 here. What is this partial thing here? It's okay. And then this one's good too. Thoughts on this process versus best ball?
So we do get some questions that come in about best ball. We don't really have time to keep that as it's like standalone format, but I will talk more about best ball. I'm going to do some other shows. I'm going to do some Destination Dynasty shows on best ball roster construction, but we should talk about best ball on here because it is a little different. it's more important, I think, in best ball to construct your team the right way, because what's going to end up firing in your lineup probably needs to be coming from like the appropriate pools of players. But it is different theory. Like you're going to value running backs a little differently. You're going to value wide receivers a little bit differently. You can probably get away with tight ends and quarterbacks being constructed a little bit differently. So anyone that asks the best ball question, we're not ignoring you. It's just when you add in, 3 nuances to the format, but then you say best ball, it can derail the discussion a little bit. So we will do some best ball episodes and best ball content, but it definitely is a different process.
Yep. Okay, let me just throw this last one up here. How far did the 2023 rookie QBs drop in rankings for your 1 QB leagues? Where will you guys be drafting Stroud, Richardson, etc.?
I'll be drafting Stroud. I'll be drafting Richardson probably.
Richardson in a 1 QB.
Yeah.
That's the kind of
I'll take
lotto
Stroud.
ticket kind of quarterback you want in 1 QB.
Yeah, I'll take Richardson over Stroud into 1 QB because I'm shooting just complete nothing but upside. So if he hits his ceiling is going to be bananas. I don't know. Like honestly, 107, 108, I might start thinking about maybe sooner. Richardson, obviously it's going to change as the draft comes. Your rookie drafts come. But right now I could see 107 or so.
So this isn't a very appropriate question to end the stream with because we talked about it throughout tonight, knowing the number of roster spots and starters. In a 1 QB start 8, I'm going to be interested in Richardson a lot higher because the threshold of what I need out of the skill player that I draft is going to be a lot higher, right? Just because I draft a decent receiver in a start 8, it's not going to matter. If it's a 12-team 1 QB start 11, I'm probably going to be a little more interested in going, okay, I don't think this running back is a top 12 running back, but they're good. They can be Damian Pierce. Like I'm going to want to draft them in a league where there's 11 starters. So I think that's the context we're missing here. It's not like ironclad. Yeah, 106, 108, 110. The format's going to matter. So the shallower it is, the higher I'm going to take the quarterbacks.
Okay, and the last one we're going to do, and I saw here, Thomas was like, damn, missed my super chat. Well, we got it. Maybe he missed us answering his super chat, but
no, he said that before we answered it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do one more because we've got an inbox offer, and then we'll call it a night. 10-team, 1 QB, PPR, start 10. Give Jerry Jeudy the 105 and 109. Get Debo, AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson, and the 108. Should I take it?
No. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is, I don't want to say he's as good as Debo, but whatever. They're in the same range. And then to give a 105 and a 109 on top of that, like, I don't know how you're adding that up. Like, AJ Dillon and Antonio Gibson equal the 109, and then you're losing 3 picks for the 108 for the 105. There's no math that I look at where this makes sense to me. So, no, I'm going to hold on to the Jeudy side.
I mean, he is getting the 108, so you could almost say the 108 and the 109 are like canceling each other out. So it's basically Jeudy and the 105 for Debo, AJ Dillon. I mean, would I prefer Debo over Jeudy? I guess. And then it's essentially 2 running backs for the extra pick. So, yeah, I could go either way, but I could pass. Let's pass.
Okay, it looks like I got a Venmo super chat. I had turned them off, and look at them. Just which one is it? It's not this one. Let me hide this. It was from Manuel. There we go. Awesome. Thanks for the super chat. I will not be sharing it with Shane and Scott. It's officially in my Venmo. No. Okay. 1 QB, half PPR, start 9, 19-man roster. I have Fields, but not yet all my threshold wide receivers yet. Garrett Wilson, Pittman, Jeudy, and Burks. You have the second one? There we go. Should I buy my threshold wide receiver before I go for the hammer tight end, understanding that the elite tight ends are now older?
So my initial inclination here is it's a half PPR. So the threshold, you're almost there with your threshold receivers already. You don't need a ton more. So if you have the opportunity to get an elite tight end, go for it. I probably don't want to go put Travis Kelce on this team necessarily, but if you can get Mark Andrews, if you can get Kyle Pitts, if you can get TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert, you're getting there. You need a tight end. You probably want one in this format. You want to pay for the positional advantage where you can get it. So sure, I'm not going to worry about trying to get receivers before I go after a tight end.
Okay. All right. We will call it right there. Thank you for that super chat, Venmo, Manuel. Here, let me take that down because that's annoying to just look at. Okay, guys, we are done. 10:07. Good stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the format talk at the beginning. We will be back with the regular scheduled programming next Tuesday night. We're Tuesday guys. So no, thanks so much for joining. Shane, thoughts?
Appreciate everyone coming out on Thursday. Wish we could have done this on Tuesday, but for whatever reason, Clay didn't want to hang out with us because he wanted to spend time with his wife or whatever. But appreciate everyone checking in on Thursday. Appreciate you all.
Yeah, good. Looking forward to the off season since the Super Bowl's over. This is our
Yeah.
first stream since the Super Bowl's ending, and this is the favorite time for me over the next 3 months is dissecting teams, looking at strategy. We get a reprieve on all the injuries and everything that happened last year for the most part. So keep joining us next Tuesday night. Peace, everyone.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a 104 show is sorry you didn't get a regular show this week. We're chopping that thing up. Probably gonna send it out Monday. Maybe before then, but may save it for Monday. Let this one marinate for a couple days. See you guys. Have a good night.